Hello world! In a previous video I showed you how I made the 3D Settlers of Catan board game. But there is something seriously wrong with it. It's actually unplayable. In that video I said this. I've also added a few tokens, but I'll explain the function of those in another video. Well, in this video I will show you why I think these extra tokens are absolutely necessary in order to play the 3D Catan board game. The problem with the 3D tiles is that, well, they're in 3D. It makes them very pretty, but it makes them also highly impractical. You cannot do everything with the 3D tile as what you can with the cardboard tile of the original game. Let me explain. The original Catan game has flat cardboard tiles, and this is done because it's easy and cheap to manufacture, but it also allows for a very interesting aspect of the game, which is a randomized island. You can play the Catan game with the standard layout. You can find the standard layout in the player's handbook. It has a predefined place for the tiles, the harbors and the number tokens. And this setup is very well balanced and is therefore very advisable for beginners. But we're no beginners, are we? To generate a random island, you shuffle the cardboard tiles face down and then deal them out to form a randomized island. Now we can still use the standard layout for the number tokens, or also shuffle those and distribute them over the board, taking care not to have two red numbers adjacent next to each other. The same goes for the harbors. You use the standard layout or you shuffle them and deal them out around the board. But just imagine doing this with our precious 3D tiles. Not only will stacking them or shuffling them face down damage them, it will also be very clear which tile is which, since they're not flat on the table. But I think I have found a way to also generate a random 3D island using those tokens that I made earlier. The problem of the randomized island struck me while I was printing and painting all these tiles. Luckily, I had a lot of time on my hands then to really think and come up with an elegant solution. In the original game, the number tokens have a letter at the underside. If you order them alphabetically, you get the beginner setup order. The genius idea is this. By shuffling the number tokens, you can have a randomized letter order. By also putting a letter at the underside of each landscape tile, you can then also have a randomized letter order that makes up your landscape. But my so-called solution is also flawed. There is no number token on the desert tile, so we cannot draw a random token that would say the desert tile goes here. And the same goes for the harbors. And you guessed it probably by now, that's where those extra tokens come in. I have designed and printed these extra tokens for the desert and the harbors, so now these can be shuffled in with the rest of the tokens and drawn out at random to build our random island. I was very deliberate in choosing which letter goes on which tile. If I would order my tiles alphabetically and build my island from the outside in, starting at the bottom left and putting the corresponding number token on it, I would end up with the beginner setup as suggested by the rulebook. If I made sense up until now, great! If I didn't make sense, just stick around a little bit longer because we're going to go over how to make a completely randomized 3D island right now. By shuffling the tokens in the bag, we can draw them out at a random order. Since both the tokens and the landscape tiles have a letter, this random order of tokens translates into a random order of landscape tiles and harbors. When the first harbor token is drawn, the corresponding harbor is placed at the bottom left adjacent to the first tile and facing right. For all next harbors, this rule is continued along the perimeter of the board, but taking care to always leave one space between two harbors. When all tokens are drawn, we fill in the spaces between the harbors with common C tiles. Since we want a random number token layout as well, we collect the number tokens again, shuffle them and draw a random order to place them on top of the tiles. For a fair gameplay, no two red numbers are allowed to be adjacent to each other. I have a little rule that I switch out one of the red numbers with the smallest number around it, but you can solve this problem however you want. Now we just have to place the robber in the correct position and we are ready to play. Thank you for watching. I hope I was successful in explaining the solution that I came up with for playing the Catan board game. If you would have still some questions, or if you have come up with a better or another solution, I would love to hear about it in the comment section below. And as always, stay creative, stay curious, and stay tuned for the next episode of Jaquibus Projects.